you weren't just eating what was available and trying to scrape along a meager existence in this area. Our people were not about gathering a mass of possessions. To show your importance in our culture, it was more likely to do something like gamble away what you had. If you had a lot of things, gamble it away. Give it to the people who don't have as much as you. Or have big giveaways. If someone is getting married in your family, have a big giveaway. Let people come into your home and take everything. And then you just replace it as you can. A way to show importance was to be generous. Not only to have things, but to give them away. So that the people who were less fortunate had them. And remembered you. And thought highly of you. That's what made you important. Someone who hoarded things and had more than anyone else would have been laughed at. Might have even been ignored or thrown out of the community for not participating in the social activities that were important, that kept the people together. And so, ultimately, people were actually saying, these are the natural resources. These are the benefit to each of those things. These are the things that have medicinal quality. Your food is a medicine. It's a medicine for life. It keeps you alive. It keeps you going. But it has certain interactions with your own system that can serve to heal you or make you sick. So certain foods have to be eaten at certain times. An example of that is strawberries. How many of you folks like strawberries? So pretty much everybody raised their hand. Who doesn't like a strawberry, right? How many of you folks like strawberry shortcake? That's actually a northeastern native traditional food. Most people wouldn't realize it, but it is. It's a recipe from coastal New England native people. People like the Narragansett, Niantic, Wampanoag, etc. And so, strawberries are great. Strawberries ripen in around June, and people would go out and feast on strawberries. It was said that they were just whole huge fields of strawberries that native people would encourage. They'd burn over, they would encourage them to grow, they'd pull out other plants so the strawberries did well, right? They would transplant them so that they would grow and produce a lot of fruit, and then they would go and harvest them. A wild plant, encouraged, cared for, and that provided for you. But strawberries are a blood thinner. Most people don't know that. So if you sit around in the wintertime in New England, you say, I like some of those nice big, fat California strawberries from the grocery store. I'm just going to get a big pint of them and eat them all. You might get sick a few days later because you thin your blood out, and then your body loses its ability to maintain, the appropriate amount of heat and insulation. Next thing you know, you have a cold. Most people don't realize that what you eat has a direct impact on how your body functions. That was something that was readily understood by our ancestors, who knew these resources, who respected those plants, who used them on a regular basis. And so, if you were struggling along, you wouldn't be eating the diversity of resources. You wouldn't be going out of your way to gather and to process and store certain things, unless you actually had a good handle on what was available. You had knowledge about how all of those things worked, the cycles, had the ability to read the weather and understand, this is going to be a tough corn year, so let's start planning ahead. It was said that because of that level of knowledge, that familiarity with the resources in this area over the long, long period of time that we have existed here, we were able to reduce our work week to approximately 20 hours a week for an adult caring for a family. So that's not young adults with no responsibilities or very little responsibilities. That's an adult caring for children and elders and maintaining households. That's pretty good. But what do you do with the rest of your time? You tell stories. You interact with other cultures. You trade. You study the science of whatever is around you. You know, Wampanoag people, linguistically, it is understood today that we had a very strong grasp on how everything works. We understood our place in the universe. And I do mean that literally. Because we are a people, we have a language that actually separates the animate world and the inanimate world. So things that move versus things that don't. Things that are living, breathing, or things that are certain types of ceremonial items or ceremonial resources versus, just the regular resources. I'll give you an example. How many of you folks think your body is animate? Would it be animate in our language? Oh yeah, definitely. The whole body is animate. However, a finger, is it animate? People are unsure. They know I'm setting them up. Anybody? Animate, it's easy. Animate or inanimate? Animate. Would people agree to that? Yeah? Sure. If I cut my finger off, it's not going anywhere. So, your body parts are not animate. However, your hair, animate or inanimate? It's animate because it keeps growing after you die. Yeah. So, we were very, very aware of what was happening. We were studying everything. Round things that move or round things that exist are animate. So the moon is animate. Our calendar system is based on the moon, right? The lunar phases. You have the fish moon, and you have the frost moon, and you have the harvest moon, and you have the planting moon, and you have, the different moons and the cycles that bring certain types of weather. And okay, it's getting near to the fish moon. The herring will be running, and we have to get ready for that. And when the herring run the rivers in the spring, everything stops, and people just gather herring. That's what they do. It's been going on forever. And so in my community today, in Aquinnah, people still do that. People start watching the river when the herring run. And when the herring run, kids will not bother going to school a couple of days. People will call into work because they've got to get the herring, because it's what we've always done. Now, for us, we were looking at the lunar calendar. We were following that pattern. We were looking at the constellations, and we were studying the stars. The stars are animate, round beings moving, serving a purpose, right? But the sun, is the sun animate or inanimate? Inanimate. Why do you think?
Because it doesn't move. It's the center.
It is. So our language has not changed much in 6,000 plus years. And we understood that the sun was inanimate. That tells you a lot about the complexity of New England Native culture and the ability that our people had to not only watch and understand, but mathematically formulate what was happening in the stars, to understand our place, to have words for the Milky Way and for the different effects, and even words for the comets and things like that made their regular routine travels through the area, to the point we actually mapped them out in stone calendars on the earth. So it's pretty interesting. And it's something that today has not really fully been studied, or the credit has not really been given to Native people of this region for having that type of complexity and that advanced understanding of science.